Today topic is constructors and destructors. At the end of the session, you will be learn about the characteristics of the constructors and so know about the what are the different types of constructors in C++ and know about the constructor overloading and know about the destructors. So now coming to the constructors. So constructor, it is a special method. It is a special function which is invoked automatically at the time of the object creation. So constructor is a similar as a function. So whereas a function, we must be invoked after defining the function. So whereas a constructor, it's a automatically invoked. It's automatically called at the time of the object creation. No need to specially invoking the constructor like a method. So it is used to initialize the data members of a new object. So constructors are generally used to initializing the data members in the class. So these are the characteristics of the constructors. So the constructor name is same as the class name. So constructor name must be same as the same as that its class name in which it belongs. So constructors cannot specify return types nor return values. Like a functions, constructors cannot specify the return type. In functions, we must specify the return type. So whereas the constructors need not to specify the return types, and the constructors cannot be declared as a static or constant. So functions must be functions can be declared as a static or constant, whereas the constructors cannot be declared as a static and constants. And constructors are invoked automatically when the objects are created. So constructors, no need to specially invoking the constructors in the class. It must be invoked automatically when the objects are created. And the constructors cannot specify the return types like a functions, and constructor should have a public access within the class. So constructors must be declared as a public within the class. So outside of the class also we can access the constructor because of so constructors should have access the public access within the same class. So these are the types of a constructor. There are three types of constructors are there. One is default constructor and parameterized constructor and copy constructor. So default constructors, coming to the default constructor, a constructor which has no argument is known as the default constructor. It is simple constructor. So constructor which has no parameters is known as the default constructor. So default constructor is not required to explicitly defined within the class. In case if any constructor is not defined within the class, automatically default constructor is invoked. Every time at the time of the object creation, default constructor is invoked if the constructor is not defined within the explicitly defined within the class. In case if no constructor is defined in the class, default constructor is invoked at the time of the object creation by default. So default constructor means it which has no arguments, no need to passing any parameters to the constructor at the time of the object creation. It is called a default constructor. If any constructor is not defined within the class, automatically at the time of the object creation, every time default constructor is by default invoked. So this is the example of the default constructor. So we must follow the characteristics while defining the constructor. So here this is the constructor. This is the default constructor. Here we are not passing any parameters to the constructor, and the constructor name is same as the class names, same as it's a class name. So mainly constructors are used to initialize the object, means it consisting of initializing the data members within the class. And coming to the parameterized constructor. So parameterized means default means we are not passing which has no parameters. It is called a default constructor. So parameterized means a constructor which has a parameters. So parameterized constructor means we need to required to passing the parameters to the constructor. It is called a parameterized constructor. So it is used to provide a different values to the distinct objects. So by using the parameterized constructor, so we are passing a different values to the distinct objects in the same class. So it is a parameterized constructor. And this is the example of the parameterized constructor. So default means which has no parameters, it is called a parameter default constructor. And a parameterized means any type of constructor, it must have a same name as it should have a same name as a class name. So and parameter as a constructor also has a same name as a class name, and it has a parameters. So here we are passing two parameters. One is a string type of parameter and another one is the integer type of parameter. Here creating the employee class, and class constructor name is same as the class name, and the constructor is defined with passing two parameters, and one is the string type and another one is the integer type. So and coming to the copy constructor. So copy constructor means a copy constructor initializes an object using another object of the same class. So copy constructor means here passing an object as a parameter to the another object in the same class, that is called a copy constructor. So parameterized constructor means here we are passing a parameters, and a copy constructor means means values. Copy constructor means we are passing an object as a parameter to the another object in the same class. It is called a copy constructor. So a copy constructor must be overloaded constructor. It is overloaded constructor. Why? Because here we are passing a one object as a parameter to the copy constructor. That's why a copy constructor is an overloaded constructor. It is used to declare and initialize an object from the another object. So this is the example of the copy constructor. So every constructor name must be same as the class name. So here class name is the employee and the copy constructor name is also same as the class name. And here we are passing a one object as a parameter to the same parameter to the copy constructor in the same class. So this is the example of the copy constructor. So here we are passing E is a object of the employee class. Here we passing the object as a parameter to the copy constructor. So coming to the next topic is constructor overloading. So constructor overloading means, so constructor can be overloaded in the similar way as a function overload. So function overloading means multiple functions having the same name with different parameters and different parameters. So difference is in the type of the parameters and the order of the parameters. Okay. So constructor can be overloaded in the similar way as a function overloading. So within the same class, we can use the different types of parameters. It is called a constructor overloading. So constructor overloading means multiple constructors having the same name and but different number of arguments. So depending upon the number and the type of the arguments. So based upon the number and the type of the arguments, we can create the object. At the time of the object creation, we are passing the parameters to the constructors. So this is the example of the constructor overloading. This is the sample program for implementing the constructor overloading. Here creating the class name is person class. So within the person class, declaring age as a private access, the age data member is declared as a private, and the constructor must be declared as a public. Already we see in the characteristics in the constructor, and the constructor must be declared as a public. So here person, this is the constructor. This is a default constructor. Here we are not passing any parameters to the constructors. It is a default constructor. So within the default constructor, so initialize the value of the data member is age 20. And next one, and within the same class, I'm defining the another constructor. This constructor is defined with a single parameter. Here we are passing a single parameter. It is called parameterized constructor. So here we are passing a one integer value. So here age is a data member within the class, and a is a parameter, is passing to the parameters to constructor, and this value is assigned to the parameter value is assigned to the data member value, initialized to the data member value, and I'm defining one member function. So get age, it is a member function. So within the member function, I'm returning value of the age to the function calling. And within the main, creating the two objects for the person class. At the time of the object creation, constructors are invoked. No need to specially invoking the constructors. And person one is the one object, and person two is a another object for the person class. So person one, creating the person one object, it's automatically invoking the default constructor. So within the class, we are using two different constructors, and two constructors names are same, and parameters are different. So one constructor has no parameters, and another constructor with one parameter, one integer parameters. So first person one, it is a one object. At the time of the person one object creation, default constructor is invoked, and means 20 is assigned to the age, and person to here we are passing a one value, one parameter. At the time of the person to second object creation, it's automatically invoking the parameterized constructor. Parameter is a constructor consisting of the only one parameter value 45. Okay, so now display the value of the person one and person two. So here calling the get age. So one member function is defined within the person class. His name as a name is get age, and member function must be accessed only by using the object. So here person one is a one object for the person class. Person one dot get age. So here we displaying the person. Now output is person one, age is 20. So within the default constructor, we are initializing the 20. 20 is assigned to the age, and in person two, we are passing a 45 as a parameter to the parameterized constructor. Now person two age is here also calling the same function get age, person two dot get age. So now output is 45. Now age of the person two is 45. So this is the example of the sample program of the constructor overloading. So constructor overloading means multiple constructors having the same name with different parameters. So based on the parameters and based on the object at the time of the object creation, the respective constructor is invoked. So this is the example of the constructor overloading. And coming to the destructor, destructor. So constructor means at the time of the object creation, memory is allocated to the members and the member functions within the class. So and the destructor is defined like a constructor, and it must have the same name as a class, like a constructor, and the destructor name is also same as a class name, but it is prefixed with a tilde sign. So this symbol is representing the destructor within the class. Destructor means destroying the memory of the object. So constructor means allocating the memory to the objects within the class, and the destructor is like defined like a constructor, but it is prefixed with a, and it is represented using a tilde sign, and it works opposite to the constructor. That means the constructor allocates the memory to the object, and destructor deallocates the means destroy the memory from the object of the classes. It can be defined only once in the class. So constructors, we can define a number of constructors within the class, but whereas the destructor only once in the, it can be defined only once in the class. Like a constructor, it is also invoked at the time of the after invoking the object, and the destructor is automatically invoked. And the destructor cannot have a parameters like a constructor, and destructor cannot have a parameters, and the modifiers also cannot be applied onto the destructors. And the constructor must be declared as a public. So whereas no need to destructors are declared, no need to using the access specifiers while declaring the destructors. Means finally destructor means destroying the memory of the from the object, and the constructor means memory is allocated to the objects, and both destructors and constructors are automatically invoked, and the destructor is represented using the tilde sign, and both constructor and destructor names are same as a class name. So this is the example of the constructor and destructor. So here creating the one default constructor, and this is the employee, it is a destructor. So here allocating the memory to the employee class means employee object, and here destroying the memory to the employee object. So these are the short answer and long answer questions. So maybe come into the semester end examinations, and list out the characteristics of the constructor. This is the short answer question. List out the characters. What are the different characteristics of the constructors? And long answer questions are explain the different types of constructors with example, and write a C++ program to demonstrate constructor overloading. This type of questions are maybe chance to come into the semester end examinations. So our next topic is operator overloading. Thank you.